Good morning. Welcome back. It's been a really busy week, but we got a ton of rain overnight, which means I don't have any yard work to do today. That means I've got a few hours to myself. I've got a design file I picked up about a month and a half, 2 months ago that I've really been wanting to try out. So we're going to fire up the Nova Plus today. We're going to jump into Lightburn, and we're going to be using craft plywood. I haven't used craft plywood for a while, but I think it'll go well with this design. So we'll start off, I'll get you my settings for craft plywood for the Nova Plus 60 watt RF CO2 laser. And then I hope you'll stick around and we'll put this sign together. Today on Laser Night. So let me get you those settings. Let's run down here to the material library in Lightburn. For my Nova Plus, we'll head down here to craft plywood. I'm pretty surprised at all the comments I've received from folks who have said they've purchased a Nova Plus. I didn't realize it was that popular a laser. My engrave settings. I've got a light and a medium dark setting using the 2.5 stock lens that comes with the unit. Let's take a look at the light. As usual, I'm just going to freeze it for a few seconds and then I'm going to move to the next one. If you want the settings, just freeze your video, write them down, and then we'll move on. So that's for your light engrave. 1000 at 40, medium dark, 1000 at 40, but a much higher lines per inch or LPI. I've got a score setting. I have a cut for 1/8 inch. And we have a cut for 1/4 inch. At some point, I'm looking forward to trying to start to work on thicker and thicker materials to try to gather settings for those. Okay, so you can give those a try when your Nova Plus arrives. As always, those are kind of good starter settings. I like them so far, but quite often over time, you're going to tweak them and maybe change some of those settings to make them darker or deeper, or perhaps you find a better cut setting, etc. But I hope they're helpful. In the second part of the video, let's jump back into Lightburn. I'll show you the file that I purchased offline. It's a design file, really high quality file, and we'll get going on the laser. Cheers. So I mentioned before that I don't have a creative or a design background in making digital files or in CorelDRAW or any of those things, so I buy a lot of my files. And I've just found over the last 18 months since I got my first laser, which was the Bolt, that there are a lot of different people that provide files at a very reasonable cost, and some of them are a little higher quality than others. This file here is a signed file, which I picked up from thatlaserdude.com. He has so far the best files, as I mentioned before, that I've been able to purchase. And the reason why is because everything can be separated out into its own layer, or its own vector, I think you call it, which means if you get a signed file, as we have here today, it's all broken up into pieces. So you can literally substitute things out, change things, add things, take parts of this file and use them with other files and put them together to kind of make your own design. Or you can use the files just the way they sit. Because they're in different layers, you're able to substitute or use different types of materials for different pieces. Today I'm going to make the whole thing out of craft plywood. I've got 1/8 inch and 1/4 inch, and we're going to make a simple sign for my shed in the backyard. The words, and I just want to center them into this piece here. So we'll just come up here and I'll hit my target and that should center it, and it did. Excellent. So there's my whole design. What I'd like to do though is I'm going to cut my backer out of the 1/8 inch, and then I'm going to cut my top layer here out of the 1/4 inch. This inside piece I'm actually not going to keep. I'm just going to cut the letters out, and then I'm going to glue those letters in, and I'm going to use the piece around that's been cut out as a template or as a jig so I can get my letters correct on top of the final design. These pieces here are actually going to be cutouts. And again, you can take these separately, put something else in there. The file that I purchased actually has 30 different designs, and you can substitute tops and bottoms between the designs or do whatever you'd like or get a little more creative. I'm going to change all of this to a red layer just because I like red for my cut files. We won't be doing any type of engraving today. It's just going to be straight cuts. I just want to get back here and change that to a different color so that it doesn't cut for me. Hang on, put that back to blue. Okay, good. And then I'm going to turn off the blue again. Sorry. This is 1/8, so we need to change that color. Let's change that to a green. And we are going to assign my cut for the 1/8 inch to that piece. And we're going to leave all of this red. Make sure it's grouped. It is now. And our red is our 1/4 inch cut. So we're going to assign that to red. There we go. Okay. So I've got my two pieces, one for the 1/8 inch with its cut settings, one for the 1/4 inch with its cut settings. Let's drop down here. I'm going to make sure we don't want to use absolute coordinates today, so we're going to use user origin. Given the different thicknesses, I'm going to have to autofocus on them separately, so I'm not going to cut them both at the same time. I'm just going to do them one at a time and then substitute it. Got my two pieces separated. Let's highlight this guy and cut him first and send him to the laser. I won't be doing any engraving today, so I'm just going to swap out the tip. I'm going to put in my 3mm cutting tip, and I'm going to take out the 6mm engraven cutting tip. The Nova Plus comes with both, the main difference being your cutting head has a much thinner opening, your engrave/cut head has twice the size opening. It just, I think, primarily is done that way because it adjusts or changes the actual flow of air coming through that nozzle. I actually cleaned my lens and my mirrors for the first time yesterday. Certainly not as quick a process as it is on my bolt, but it was very simple. It just probably took about 15 or 20 minutes at the desk or at the bench, whereas the bolt is pretty much a 5-7 minute process. So we're cutting our 1/4 inch piece out first, so let me get that out of the way. One of the big improvements that the Nova Plus have over the existing Nova line is that you can autofocus anywhere in the bed. Let's bring this guy up. Okay, and let's autofocus. Press my menu, press enter. You'll see the head will squish. Takes a second and then it falls back to its proper focus height. Origin, let's frame it. That's better. Okay, let's run the job. I didn't mask this job because I'm going to be sanding it and then staining it afterwards, so it doesn't matter if I've got a little, overburn, so to speak. I'm also interested to see how clean the 2.5 inch cuts, especially on these very small cutouts. Usually on the bolt, I'd be using a 1.5 inch lens on something like this, just to get that extra small dot size. But I'm interested to see how the 2.5 inch stock lens works on the small cuts. Speaking of the bolt, I know a number of folks have been asking me what's been going on with the bolt, or if I'm keeping the bolt. I'm absolutely going to keep it. It's not getting as much use lately because, of course, I've been trying to focus on learning how to use the Nova Plus. But it has been keeping itself busy over the last several weeks doing tumblers and kind of smaller items. And of course it does an absolutely stunning job, easy to use, and it's great for doing drinkware or those types of items. In fact, this sign could have been cut on the bolt, but I'm trying to get used to or get more experience on the Nova Plus. I also tend to keep forgetting that the Nova Plus comes with two different work beds. It comes with the honeycomb as well as with a blade table. And since I'm just cutting today, I could have taken the honeycomb out and popped the pieces on top of the blade table, which I understand is much better for cutting because you get less scorching or any less, flashback from underneath. I'm thinking my cut settings might be a little strong because I'm getting a lot of debris, and I can also see that bright light, kind of like the lasers hitting the honeycomb quite a bit. So I may want to adjust those either a little faster speed or a little less power. As I mentioned, this controller and the screen is very different than the Bolt, but if you take a look here, the file started off with a red color, and the black areas are the areas that has already been cut. And if you look really closely, you can see the cursor as it's cutting along this shape. I'll try to zoom in and try to keep that in focus for you. It's actually pretty cool. So now you have an idea of what's already been cut and what's left to be cut. And it's in real time. Take a look at that exhaust system. You can see the smoke just flying or getting sucked out the back. This is the first time I've ever cut MDF and I did not smell at least it a little bit in my room or in my workshop. The Bolt's got a great exhaust system, but MDF, as you know, has a really strong odor to it. And from time to time, cutting it on the Bolt, I will smell it. But you can tell that this exhaust system is just sucking all that smoke and that aroma out the back and outside. I have yet to smell any all morning. Let's grab our pieces. Okay, I've got all my pieces cut, so I'm just going to grab some 320 grit in my sander, give it a quick sand, and get them ready for the stain. Pieces are all sanded. I have 3 stains that I have kind of partial cans on. So I've got a linen, here, that's better. Got a red oak, and I've got black. So I think we're going to use all 3 colors on that sign. I'm going to stain them up, let them dry, and I'll be back to you in a minute. So my stained pieces are all done. They're dried. I had a last minute change of heart because I didn't really like the linen on the letters, so I decided I'd paint them instead. Bit of a faux pas, I'll show you in a minute. But for now, let's put our pieces together, get them glued down and drying. A little tip, I've got an 1/8 inch piece and a 1/4 inch piece, so I'm going to use the 1/4 inch cutout as a jig or a template so that I can make sure that my 2 pieces fit together perfectly snug and they're square. I don't have to guess. These tiny tips for your CA glue are awesome. They come in super handy, especially for small work like this. I'm going to put some outdoor wood glue on this because I plan on hanging it on the outside of my shed in the backyard. And I'm going to try my best not to get any squished out the sides. And I'm also going to tack it in a few spots just with the CA glue just to get it to quickly adhere before I throw some weight on it and let it dry. Sorry about that. I had to run out and cut the grass before it started raining again. We're all finished up, and I think it turned out pretty nice. I'm liking the way that black stain and the red oak stain kind of complement each other. I think it looks really nice, especially given the theme of being a tool shed, and of course the white letters pop. It's a really nice design to work with again. Everything fit, everything cut properly, and it comes with 30 different inlays that you can mix and match or create your own. Couple of learnings, as there always are, or a few things I wanted to pass on. The stain worked great, but if you recall, I was going to put a white linen stain on the letters. Didn't really like it. It was just a little too washed. So I cleaned her up and I decided just to paint it with some Rust-Oleum. Unfortunately, I forgot it's craft plywood and there's MDF in the middle. I didn't prime the letters. And this is just another example of why it's so important to use primer on MDF before you paint it. The MDF just keeps soaking in the paint. After my third coating, I thought I was in good shape, but as it dried once again, as you can see, the sides of the letters are turning black as it soaks up more paint. So I decided to leave it because it's just for me out in the backyard. However, in the future, gotta prime for sure. And the last thing, glue. I don't use glue very often, unless I'm putting pieces together or larger pieces that I'll eventually stain after the fact. But given I had to stain these individually, and given I painted these letters, using wood glue and CA glue, very difficult on small, thin lines. You end up with a lot of glue squishing out. You end up spending time trying to get that squished out glue out of there. It's just much easier, once again, just grab a sheet of this 467 MP, or if you prefer the 3M 9448A, I get it from Wishing Star out in Alberta. Both are rated for indoor and outdoor use, and both are rated for hot and cold temperatures. So it would have been a lot easier just to simply take one sheet of this. It's a little more expensive. I pay $6.50 for a 24-inch sheet. I would have used it about 18 inches. So all in all, not really expensive from a supply perspective, but so much easier putting your piece together afterwards and knowing that you've got that peace of mind that you're going to get good quality adhesion, including for signs that you put outdoors. So I'm going to grab a piece of ground wire so I can hook it and hang it while I spray it with some exterior outdoor wood finish. Once that dries, I'm going to screw it up to the side of my shed. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. I've still got a lot to learn on this Nova Plus, but I'm learning more things every week, and so far, I'm very happy with the purchase. I have no complaints. Have a great week, and have fun with your lasers. My name's Gord Potter, and you've been watching Laser Nug. Cheers.